What up, everybody, and welcome to the State of Wild, episode 17, a regular podcast, YouTube video, web series thing. These have been a lot of episodes, and Corbett, as usual, is joining us. Corbett, how are you doing tonight, friend?
Dude, I'm doing good. When you said 17, I had to do a little double take there. Dude, time flies, right?
Yeah, I think you've been on for about 3 months, which is insane. Time really flies. For those of you guys where you're just not tuning in, just a reminder that we're going to be doing 3 things during today's episode. So first of all, we're going to be talking about the state of the wild metagame. So what's dominating, how to beat it, and any decks that might be flying underneath the radar. Second off, we're going to be talking about any wild news, controversial topics, or the lack thereof. And last but not least, we're going to be talking about our decks of the week. But before we get started, just a reminder to leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you guys enjoy content like this. It's free and it supports us a lot. With that all being said, let's go ahead and get started. So yeah, the state of the wild metagame. So it's been another week and the meta is kind of further settled, I think, into this control deck, fast combo, aggressive deck kind of meta triangle. So you've got like the Arena Priest and the Cubeblocks. You got the fast combo and the Quest Mage, the Malagos Druids. And then you have the aggressive decks with like Aggro Druid and Discard Warlock and Odd Rogue. But that being said, Priest is by far and away, I think, the most powerful deck by a million miles. And I think people recognize that and are teching decks to beat it. Whether it's with Finley Wizard or with Beneath the Grounds. I've even seen people unironically running the Darkness. Who knows? But people are playing the good build of Priest. They're winning with good builds of Priest, where they're playing and winning with the decks that counter Priest. And so yeah, so while there are decks that are out there that beat Priest pretty consistently, I'm thinking like Malagos Druid and Quest Mage, none of them really are consistent at beating all the other decks, right? Which is why Priest is so high in the metagame. I mean, have you seen any further developments during the week since the last time we recorded?
I've been relatively tuned out with my week off. I did come back and nothing much had changed, I would say. The meta does feel relatively diverse still.
Okay.
I think that's something that we should at least emphasize, where we're talking about Arena Priest being the best deck and all this kind of stuff, but I do think the Wild is still like in a very diverse position, especially compared to Standard at similar ranks. So yeah, all that said, I think like some of the feeling is more because of how long the decks have been around, but I think right now in the meta, I don't know, there's still like a bit of variety and stuff going on.
Yeah, I would say there's variety, but I also, like, kind of touching back on my point, you have a variety of decks that can beat other decks, but they can't beat all the decks, right? Mm-hmm. Where Priest is the deck that beats the most things the most consistently, which is why I think we see it, and I think why we talk about it being the best deck in the format. So I think Priest being the most dominant versus the meta still being diverse in the types and amounts of decks being played, I think they're two different things, but they both are true, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
And so while the meta hasn't really changed much, we want to take a little bit of a second to talk about kind of the meta games between, the Western servers, so like the Americas and EU, and comparing it a little bit to, we had another Chinese meta report that came out, and comparing it to the Chinese meta game. And so to do a little bit of an East versus West kind of meta analysis. And so we'll be using the Wildside meta report. This is just kind of the most recent thing that came out. And it kind of echoes a lot of the thoughts that we've had, right? It has Arena Priest, Quest Mage, Discard Warlock, Odd Rogue as the top 4 decks, and a lot of the tier 2 decks we were talking about. We kind of agree that they're pretty good. They're tier 2 decks. But when you look over at the Chinese metagame, right? Arena Priest is down in tier 2, which is like insane. And they have Odd Rogue and Odd Paladin as their 2 best decks in the format, followed by Quest Mage. And I think a lot of that might, be just kind of perception and popularity of decks over there, but it's just kind of insane. Just the drastic shift, right? Arena Priest down in tier 2 after we've been consistently harping about it being the best deck in the format.
It is really interesting. And yeah, it really does raise a few questions that come to mind. The first being like, okay, we accept this is true. Like this is an accurate read on the Chinese tier list. What the hell is causing this, right? Like is Arena Priest really just not like that good? So without actually playing in on the Chinese server, it's kind of hard to exactly piece together what might be happening. Like is Odd Rogue, they have it at the very top of tier 1. Is like double Beneath the Grounds Odd Rogue really, really popular? like, I don't know, Quest Mage, like incredibly popular over there. And it's kind of hard to piece together because like we've talked about this a lot before, where sometimes people sort of assign power levels to deck and they just think that you just rank them like 1 through 10, and that's just like how it is and how it always will be. But, you know, obviously decks can get better and worse depending on what's around them. It's certainly hard to imagine why Reno Priest wouldn't be performing that well in a realistic way, but it's certainly possible. And the other counter is maybe that's an incorrect read. I'm not necessarily saying either way, but yeah, it's definitely interesting seeing the very clear discrepancies in how things are perceived.
Yeah, and so just a reminder that like the Chinese server has like 10 times the amount of players as the Americans and the European servers probably combined. And so, yeah, again, assuming that this tier list is accurate, which maybe it is, maybe it isn't, it's just kind of insane because like seeing priests and it's surrounded by decks that over here in the West we think are they're pretty good, easy matchups for the priest decks. And so I wonder if it's just kind of like they have already reacted in their metagame, and so they've seen a ton of Quest Mage and Malaga Druid because priest is so good, right?
Yeah, I'd also say, like, I think historically, right, like in a lot of these meta reports, you start noticing time and time again things that kind of pop out. So whether you're talking about like Vicious Syndicate, people historically have said that Vicious Syndicate, quote unquote, like overrates aggro decks. And if you're talking about these Chinese reports, something that's generally perceived is the Chinese reports typically like underrate Reno Priest, where there have been many times previously where Reno Priest has been rated very, very highly by other tier lists coming out of the Western servers, but the Chinese tier lists have rated it quite low, like bottom of tier 2 when it's perceived as like one of the best decks over here. And that's true for like multiple decks, right? Like Galakrem Warrior is another one, which is very, very consistently like decently rated on these Chinese tier lists, where it's almost always like rated in their tier 2 or so, like in the top 10 to 12 decks. It's been going on for a long time. And it seems like a zero play on the other servers from what we've seen, or close to zero play. It doesn't seem to be anywhere near that strong. So yeah, Reno Priest having this kind of perception is certainly very in line with what has historically happened. But it is interesting because while this has been like, there's been such a shift in the perception of Reno Priest power, where like with Polkalt and Lucia, it's like, yeah, of course, like it got way better. But it's still perceived as not being that good. At least. But yeah, again, like we don't play on these servers, so we're not exactly sure what might be happening. But yeah, certainly interesting.
Yeah, it's really, I just want to go ahead and point out one last, I don't know, cute detail from this Chinese server. But they have Odd Hunter at the bottom of tier 2. So while tiers themselves are probably irrelevant, it's just they're considering Odd Hunter a better deck than like Odd Warrior and Odd Demon Hunter, which is kind of insane. And where like I don't think I've seen an Odd Hunter since like Baku came out in Witchwood, right? It's been forever. Yeah. Something I will say as well, just to add on, is that I was almost a little sad seeing this report, because often we kind of get a lot of inspiration and kind of get some like pointing in the right direction when it comes to these tier lists. Like, oh, you might have missed this, but no, this all looks relatively in line. There's nothing really popping that looks new or particularly fresh, which, you know, is kind of expected. We're quite deep into the expansion at this point. And even I think like the counter is almost like, hey, we might have some hidden decks that might not be seeing play over there. Yeah, so like I'm looking back at the Wildside meta report. Some decks that don't show up on this Chinese meta report, we've got stuff like Bomb Warrior, Darkglare Warlock that have both been kind of making a comeback. We'll talk a little bit about Darkglare Warlock later. I think the big thing is Lpg Mage, right? I have been playing nothing but that deck, and I think it's a very, very good deck in the metagame. And it's not even anywhere on this meta report, and I don't know why that.
And this is again like another trend, right?
Yeah.
Like Lpg Mage popped up last expansion a lot. It saw a very rapid refinement heading into the tournament that Solemn hosted. A lot of like the top players kind of theorycrafted together, and it's spread out on ladder very quickly. But it never really popped up on any of these reports that we saw. So yeah, just another historical kind of trend, and it's not a surprise that we don't see it featured in the tier list here.
Yeah, and then the one last sleeper deck from the Wildside meta report that maybe some people in the Chinese server need to start taking, you know, into consideration is this Aggro Highlander Hunter that came out of nowhere. I don't know. Have you ever seen this deck play? I haven't seen it yet on ladder.
I think I saw something similar in Standard, but I don't know. I haven't seen much of this on the wild stuff as well. I don't know. It's hard to say.
I think this is officially counting as Corbett's most successful dust bait ever, I think, so far.
It's a tough list. It's a tough list to crack, but yeah, Highlander Hunter, I personally don't think it's particularly strong, just in case anyone was wondering. I did think it was worth exploring, like, Reno Hunter in a different direction. I think it's like a very valid thing, right? Is that Reno Hunter as itself hasn't had the most success with these slower builds. A lot of people still think it's okay. That's fine. But I want to try something that was a bit different and what we're seeing success in Standard. Played it, hit high ranks with it. Don't think it's that good. Might have debated people a little bit on this one. My bad, guys.
So you guys can yell at him down in the comments below. But yes, moving on. So we've been talking about a lot of our established metagame, but we're getting another little bit of a shakeup to the metagame next week, where we're going to have 2 more nerfs that have been announced. So first of all, Evocation going from 1 mana to 2. So this is a pretty drastic nerf. I think we'll talk a little bit about this. Evocation, I want to talk a little bit about Alec, who's a game designer, and he usually tweets out his thoughts about these nerfs.
Yeah.
And I always find them really, really helpful. So he said Evocation helped enable a lot of these early game swing turns that felt insurmountable, right? And we always kind of come back to these early game swing turns being kind of the basis of nerfs.
Keeping in mind that we're talking Standard here, from Alec's perspective.
Yeah. So these were both nerfs because of Standard, right? These weren't because Quest Mage was, bonkers deck and wild. This is about kind of the tempo spell mage. I don't really know what it's called now.
Cyclone Mage.
Mage in Standard. But yeah, so with it going down to 2 mana, or going up to 2 mana, I suppose, kind of the explosive turn with Sorcerer Apprentice early in the game is a lot less consistent. And I think the biggest thing is that you can't hit this card off of Wandmaker or Cobalt Spellkin anymore, which I think is, it removes a lot of the frustration. Yeah, you can still get it off a magic trick, but when you remove it from the 1 mana spell pool, off of Wandmaker and Spellkin, you maybe get 2 a game instead of 4 or 5, which is kind of insane. But yeah, I think Evocation is actually an insane nerf. I think Evocation was one of, if not the best cards in Quest Mage. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about the stats, but I think when you touch one of the strongest cards in a deck, even if it's just by 1 mana, and yes, you have Sorcerer Apprentice, it's still going to hurt your deck a ton.
Yeah, the nerf to Evocation actually reminded me a lot of what Alex said when they nerfed Secret Passage, where he said it was a matter of when, not if. And that's very much how I felt about Evocation. Like, the card is kind of nutty and very fitting of like a legendary spell, but it very much felt like, yeah, this is going to get hit at some point. It's just a matter of like when it happens, right? And like, it's been interesting, the reaction to the Evocation nerf from wild players. I've generally seen people kind of dismiss it a lot, which I wouldn't really be doing so. The thing about Quest Mage, like, Evocation is definitely your best card, right? So I've made this very simple. We're not looking at like the mulligan keep rates, so this is like a very simple version of the stats. But you can see here, like, drawn win rate, like Evocation is nutty. And again, you can't really take this out of context, but we have for simplicity. But yeah, Evocation is like the best card basically in Quest Mage. Is one of your like best drawn. It's an excellent card in the mulligan. I think that's a really, really big deal as well, because you can't really keep Evocation if Evocation's good enough to play in Quest Mage, you can't really keep it in your mulligan anymore. And reducing the options that you have as mulligan keeps is always like a really, really big deal, right? All of a sudden your starting hands can get a lot worse than what they otherwise would be. Doubling the cost of a card is like a really, really harsh nerf. Quest Mage is a deck that often is like really walking a tightrope, like on a razor's edge, to just spend just enough mana to survive and do the broken thing. Obviously, when it does these insane high rolls, it feels like that they could have done whatever they wanted. But a lot of the time, like, Quest Mage is really walking like a really tight act here. So yeah, I think this nerf is super significant. I think you're spot on about the Wandmaker and Cobalt Spellkin stuff, and kind of taking it out of that pool is a really big deal. In Wild, not so much, because we weren't playing Spellkin and Wandmaker, and our pool was a lot larger, so we didn't tend to have multiple evocations. But yeah, I think this nerf is good, and I think it'll hurt a lot more than people think. I wouldn't be surprised to see, Quest Mage lose at least a percent or two. Like, I guess the real argument is that, hey, at least it's only hitting one card rather than two because it is a legendary spell. But yeah, it's a really significant nerf.
Yeah, I would say like Quest Mage was kind of at that point where as the meta has shifted, as Reno Priest has got new tools, as it's gotten nerfed, it was at this point where like it wasn't like the tier 1 dominant deck that it used to be, right? I think it was like a bottom of tier 1, high tier 2, like 5th or 6th best deck in the metagame. Maybe that's a little bit harsh on the deck, but it's not nearly as good as it used to be, right?
Yeah, I would even say I'm one of the people who seems to be historically lowest among the wild tier list people or contributors, whatever. I'm probably like the lowest person on Quest Mage, it feels like. I really don't think Quest Mage is that good right now. And I think like it's fine, right? Like most of the decks in tier 1, tier 2, and even tier 3 are all like rank 1 legend viable, right? Like you can climb with whatever. But I think Quest Mage is, you know, it consistently keeps losing ground on these aggro matchups a lot. Like Tour Guide makes Odd Pally so much faster. Odd Rogue got way faster. Aggro Druid is like a brutal matchup. Like holy crap! If they're playing Web Lords, it feels like you're losing 85%. Like it's such a difficult matchup. And then even things like Reno Priest, right? Like Elucia kind of just by itself cuts in 15, 20% of that win rate by itself. And so, yeah, Quest Mage is kind of in a little delicate spot, which I know some people are going to reject and think that, you know, I'm just hating for some reason. But Quest Mage, one of my favorite decks. I think it deserves to die, all that good stuff. But I also don't think it's that good right now. And the nerf is a big deal.
Yeah, and I think I've seen a lot of reactions. I agree with a lot of what you've said. And I've also seen a lot of reactions of, oh, well, now Quest Mage, with Quest Mage being nerfed, Reno Priest is getting another buff, right? But I think actually what's going to happen, I talked a little bit about this earlier in another video, but I think instead of Priest getting buffed, I think what you're actually going to see is Quest Mage was competing with stuff like Malagos Druid and the Tip the Scales Paladin, right, as those fast combo decks. And with Quest Mage continually getting hit, I think what you're going to actually just see is a decrease in the play rate of Quest Mage. You're going to see a big increase in the play of those other two combo decks, right, rather than Priest getting a huge buff.
For sure, I can see that. Yeah, and so like the last thing to kind of describe like how much this change affects things, like sometimes it's easy to lose track of exactly what we're talking about when we're talking about like lowering win rate. And so it's like Evocation costing 2 mana. Do you think that'll cost you 2 wins out of 100 games? You know, like do you think it'll cost you that many? Because that's all it takes really for a deck to. And then to me, it's like, well, yeah, probably. Like I think Evocation costing that little bit extra, like it makes it worse off random generators. And do you think we still play this in Quest Mage? I assume yes, but I can go a little bit back and forth. Like I'm not. It's so bad without the Apprentice. Like it's really bad.
But it's like almost always been really bad without Apprentice, right? In my experience.
I don't know. I think sometimes the Evocation could really bail you out, even at 1 mana. Even if it was only casting like 2 or 3 spells for like on turn 6 or something. But,
yeah, I don't know. I guess the way that I picture Quest Mage, and this is coming from somebody who hasn't played a ton of Quest Mage, right? So this is not the most confident opinion, but for me, this is a deck that's like, it needs to do its thing by turn 6, turn 7, right? In this metagame. And I feel like a lot of that deck hinges on the fact of you having Source's Apprentice in general. And when they have Sork, the Evocation's nutty. But whenever somebody has like hardcast Evocation, like without Sork Apprentice, I'm just like, well, they're desperate and I have a chance in this game. And now when they're hardcasting Evocation at 2 mana, there's
like, you can't, like, it's horrible.
Yeah.
It's really, really bad.
And I like, there's also like all this like snowball effects, right? Where it makes your mana cyclone, right, follow up even more awkward, right? Because you have less mana to spend, and then you have less mana to. It's big. I think it's a lot bigger of an effect that a lot of people are talking about, or given it.
Yeah,
I don't think that's the big takeaway.
Sorry. I think like sometimes people confuse like play experience with power and like how it feels, because it's not going to change how Quest Mage feels, right? But it is that question of like, how many wins does this cost you out of 100 games? I think at least a couple. So
yeah. Okay, but we talked a lot about Evocation. Let's talk about the second card that they're nerfing. So they are nerfing Solarian Prime. So this is the second half of Astromancer Solarian, the one that gets shuffled into your deck. It now is a 9 mana card, right? 9 mana, 7/7 with spell damage +1. That casts 5. So I will go ahead and say, let's go ahead and read Alex's thoughts real quick. They basically, what they did is they evaluated the power level and the experience of playing against Solarian Prime to the other primes that they had released, and it was really, really broken. And it created some pretty crazy powerful power spikes in standard, right? With stuff like Puzzle Box and Deep Freeze and cards like that. Conjurer's Calling, for example. Yeah, and so just to kind of keep it in line in power level to the other primes, they've kind of touched it and moved it to 9. In Wild, the only deck that this card was seeing play in was Lpg Mage. Okay, it being 9 mana sucks. It is so bad at 9 mana. Okay, I will go ahead and preface this though by saying in Lpg Mage, half the time this is costing 1 anyways, right? Because ideally you've played LPG early in the game. And so in those games, it doesn't matter because it's still 1 mana and you still get to do like Brand Zolas and shenanigans with this if you need it. Kind of how I saw this when I saw it nerfed was, it's like Dragon Queen Alexstrasza used to be run it when it was 9 mana, give you 2 0-mana dragons. Because not only was it like a 9 mana tempo play if you needed it, right, in addition to a value engine, but it was also this 9 mana kind of oh shit button, right? Let me find a taunt or a heal, right? If I was desperate. And Solarian, right, kind of filled that same role in my play experience, where it was like, all right, well, I'm falling behind on board. Let's play Astromancer Solarian and see what happens, sort of thing. And with it moving from 7 to 9, you're kind of completely taking away that, oh, save me, please, you know, like bless RNG, save me. So when you remove that, it makes the card a lot worse. However, I do think you're probably still going to play it post-nerf just because half the time it's still going to cost 1. But when you're casting it for 9, it's going to feel really, really bad. And I think it also removes like the brand Solarian potential, which also really, really hurts. But yeah, I think this is actually a pretty significant nerf. I will say that it's not played in a super popular deck, right? So maybe not the biggest impact on WoW, but it's a pretty relevant nerf.
Yeah, it's funny to me. We're talking about Evocation for Quest Mage as my baby, and then now we're talking about Lpg Mage as your one that got hit.
Yeah.
But yeah, in standard, I don't really know if it says play. Like maybe you just value the spell damage a lot because of the cram session and stuff. But in Wild, I don't think you'll play this anymore. I understand the argument that it'll sometimes cost 1 and that kind of side of things, but if it gets shuffled in early, it makes Polka sometimes a little iffy, where it doesn't put the Galaxy or Pilgrim right on top. So if you can't really speed run to that, but that's kind of like a minor detail. To me, it's more the fact that it costs 9.
It costs 9, and 9's a lot.
It costs 9. Yeah. Like that's like I can like just underline that over and over. Like it costs 9. 9 mana in Wild is so goddamn expensive. Like a 2 mana nerf is insane for the end part of this, and I already think that the Prime wasn't that good in LPG. Like, I thought it was fine, but the deck could definitely get by without it. One of the weaker cards. And now that the Prime costs 9, I think it's straight up cut. Like, let's get out.
I mean, for what it's worth, I'm going to be playing it because it makes for those crazy highlight moments. But
yes, that's important.
But I also definitely think it's a lot worse. You know, definitely can get away with cutting it, and probably should get away with cutting it.
Yeah.
But yeah. So those are the 2 nerfs. They go live next week. And just a reminder that you get full dust refunds on those for 2 weeks, so feel free to dust them if you have any doubts, and then you can always recraft them later. But yeah, so kind of wrapping up our metagame segment. While there's no big magical counter that's kind of arisen to Reno Priest, but you have seen decks that have kind of adapted. Right, we talked a little bit about Odd Rogue with Beneath. You've got these combo decks. Lpg Mage has kind of risen a little bit. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about this next week. But there are decks out there. There are a lot of decks that you can play to fill whatever role or need you want on the WoW ladder. But yeah, with that being said, let's go ahead and move on to part 2. So moving on to our wild news, we're getting a Hearthstone fall reveal stream coming up this week on the 22nd, which is really exciting. And so they've kind of already leaked what's going to be talked about in this fall reveal. So we're going to be talking about the new expansion, which is awesome. We're going to get a system revamp and a new game mode. So let's just take it one by one. Let's talk about the expansion. So there's been a lot of kind of rumors about Dark Moon Fair. I don't play WoW. I don't know if you have either.
No.
And so I'm not. What I've gotten from my Twitch chat is that it's kind of like a crazy carnival-esque vibe. Carnival. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I don't know what that means in terms of like card design. I don't really know. I'm really interested to see. I don't know. This is kind of early for an expansion, right? Like it feels weird. So normally we get like expansion announcements at the beginning of like November, and then we get like the expansion beginning of December, and now we're getting it like 2 weeks before November, which is insane. Which is really early. I will say that it's like also this is normally like the weekend when BlizzCon is held. I think it's either this weekend or last weekend, and so it kind of makes sense with the timing, right, for these announcements, because these might be what they were going to announce at BlizzCon. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe there's something up with card reveals or like a release pattern. I'm not sure, but maybe they're shaking things up with this new expansion.
Yeah, it's really weird because they typically do expansion releases around like December 4th through 10th. And so if they reveal the expansion on the 22nd, it's like, God, are we really like 6 weeks out? I don't know. Like,
and they're going to make us wait 6 weeks?
Yeah, I know. That feels kind of strange.
Yeah.
Then again, maybe that it all has to do with like how the patches work and like people, I don't know exactly how all that kind of side of things works. But yeah, I don't know. It's super early. It's weird. But yeah, exciting, right?
Yeah.
Like, let's just put that aside. Like, how weird it is. Move that. Let's just talk about it. It's fun. Like, new expansion. I've been really, really eager for this. I really wasn't expecting this, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. So yeah, I've heard like the carnival thing as well. In terms of card design, no idea. I mean, RNG, right? Maybe. But no, I have no idea at all what they can do. But this is something that I know that people have been asking for a long time. Like, I don't know that much about WoW, but I swear to God, I've heard the words like Dark Moon Fair, like probably like thousands of times going through like Reddit posts or Twitch or whatever on Twitter. Like people just want this expansion, and they've been like tossing it out every year. And so we're finally getting it. And yeah, it's kind of cool as well. So a lot of people seem eager. That makes me excited. I'm very happy with how Skullman's turned out. And I think this kind of a carnival theme, whatever that is exactly, that sounds like a really, really fun kind of beginning.
It feels like a very really Hearthstone-esque thing. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It very much feels like that, right, with Skullman. So they did a really good job, I think, with Skullman's Academy. So looking forward to that for sure.
Yeah, they've set a pretty high bar, right, with Skullman's Academy, I would say.
Yeah,
it's going to be hard to beat this, and I hope we don't get like another Rostercon's Rumble, right? But knowing the dev team and kind of how they've been working recently, I wouldn't put my money on that. I would put my money on a crazy good, exciting expansion that hopefully meets the expectations of all the WoW nerds out there that, you know, love Darkmoon Fair. But yeah, so that's the expansion. We'll talk a lot about it next week, so don't worry about that. We'll talk a lot about the new card mechanics and cards and all that kind of news next week. And let's talk a little bit about the system revamp. So we don't know exactly what this is going to be, but it's most likely kind of the reworking of the progression and reward system that were kind of leaked, revealed through a survey. I don't really know how to put it out. This is kind of just an example of what we might see. I know a lot of people are still iffy on this Battle Pass system. They're all negative about potentially earning less gold, even though they've said kind of explicitly that you will not earn less in rewards than you currently do now. But basically how this works is like everybody will get access to like a free battle pass, right? So just by playing, you will get free rewards. And like the example that they put out, you'll get 4,000 gold plus like 30 something packs, right? Which is like what, 3,000 dust, 30,000 dust, something. No, it's not 30,000 dust, 3,000 dust. Geez, math is hard. Plus some legendary cards, which is a lot of dust, plus a skin, plus a card back, right? And that's just for free. And then if you pay a small amount, so usually it's like $25 for like a battle pass, $30 for a battle pass, then you get all of that plus a bunch more gold, plus a bunch more packs, plus a lot more skins, right? So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, right? Obviously, we should probably wait until they officially announce things, but I wouldn't be surprised if a battle pass or reworking of the progression system is something that we see as part of the system revamp. And we'll talk a little bit about this next week, and then maybe you can bring your pitchforks out next week if it's not exactly what you're excited about. But last but not least, let's talk about this new game mode. This is the thing that we're like the most excited about. Except, I mean, honestly, I might be more excited for this than the new expansion. For this announcement, for this announcement, right? Because this
expansions come out like 3 times a year. New game mode, whew, that's a rarity.
So I'm really excited about this. We've speculated a ton on this new game mode previously, like in previous episodes. So I don't want to spend a ton of time here. Like we both kind of set our money on this like rotating set constructed format that we'd like to see. But there's also been a lot of people kind of talking about like a 2v2 kind of game mode. Not really sure how that's going to work. But also, man, like the last time we got a new game mode, we got something completely random, like off the wall in Battlegrounds, right? So I wouldn't put, like, I wouldn't be surprised if they came out with something completely random that nobody has kind of talked about in Twitter and Reddit, and it's an insane, awesome mode, right? So I'm just excited. This is probably the part that I'm the most excited for the like fall reveal stream.
So what I'm hearing is like Hearthstone Among Us, right? That's what.
I don't know how that would work, but I'm down.
It's Valera with a knife.
But yeah, let us know your thoughts and comments down below on what you guys want to see with the new expansion and the game mode. And just a reminder, we'll be talking a lot about this next week. That's probably all we're going to be talking about next week. So make sure you guys tune back in for kind of our thoughts on a lot of this. But yeah, make sure that you guys tune into the fall reveal stream. It is October 22nd, 8 a.m. Pacific time. Make sure you guys link, actually, I don't know if you guys saw this in in the announcement, but if you guys link your Twitch account to your Blizzard account, just by watching this, you get free packs, right? So just for watching something that you probably would be watching already, you get free packs. So don't forget to do that. But yeah, let's go ahead and move on to part 3. Yeah, so moving on to our decks of the week. So this is where we normally talk about some meta and some off-meta decks for you guys to climb with this week. Whether you're trying to go for, rank 1 legend or just trying to chill at rank 5, during your monthly climb, we've got a little bit of everything. So let's go ahead and start off with our meta deck of the week. Corbett, you want to take this one away?
Sure. So we have Lasagne's rank 1 legend Odd Rogue. It's really similar to like the stock list that people are playing. It's really a forward card difference to what the Theorycraft list that I had, and so like pretty similar, where it's running like Miscreants and Wand Thieves over the Flybooters and Southsea Captain. Makes a lot of sense. If you want to cut the Flybooter, then Southsea Captain becomes a lot worse. So it's only running the 4 total 1-drop Pirates with Buccaneer and Deckhand. So yeah, very minimalist on that stuff, but it does have the Wand Thief and Miscreant. So this really suggests that it's pushing more towards like a higher value kind of gameplay. It's geared a little bit more towards things like Odd Paladin as well. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I think it's a really clean list. So Odd Rogue is definitely one of the decks that continues to do really well. It's interesting there's no Beneath the Grounds as well. So maybe an indicator that tech isn't necessarily needed. But yeah, Miscreant and the Wand Thief there is kind of the value generators. Yeah, Odd Rogue's still like a really, really solid list. It continually pops up as one of the better decks in the format. It's not that popular, so it lets you also feel like a little bit of a hipster if you want to do that and kind of play something slightly off meta that's still really, really, really good. But yeah, Odd Rogue. It's so interesting to me though how Odd Rogue this does look so completely different compared to where it was prior to the expansion. Like there are a lot of new cards in here and it looks really, really sweet. So I might even get back on Odd Rogue and try out this list as well sometime in the future.
I was about to say, I'm going to try out this Wand Thief Miscreant stuff because it feels like it's pretty good against Odd Paladin. It feels, I don't know how consistent it is to activate it, right? Without the Flybooters, but I mean, obviously he hit rank 1 legend with us, I think on EU, right? So he knows what he's doing. I think he's mentioned in his tweet that he was actually 8-1 against Arena Priest without Beneath the Grounds. So, I mean, maybe you honestly just don't even need it. We talked a little bit when we featured Odd Rogue last, I think like 3 or 4 months ago, where like you don't really need Beneath the Grounds just because you are able to put on kind of consistent amounts of pressure, right, to refill the board.
It's a luxury kind of, right? It's one of the decks that can afford to kind of easily tech, but you don't need to. Like, it's not that horrific of a matchup. Like, you'll be unfavored, but it's not that bad. And yeah, with the immense amount of value generation, you probably have a lot more mid game. Especially if they don't manage to hit like the Polecat on 4 and it becomes a little bit more grindy, then yeah, there's a lot of stuff that you can do. But yeah, Odd Rogue very, very flexible and pretty well rounded for sure.
Yeah, I'm just like taking a quick count here. I think there's actually 10 new cards in this deck.
That's insane for Wild. Holy crap. For Wild? Like 6. An established deck in Wild to pick up 10 new cards like this? That's nutty.
And like an established deck that was already like a fringe, like tier 1, tier 2 deck, right? Like a deck that was really, really good, got 10 new cards. It's insane. Man. Odd Rogue. Ooh, beautiful. But yeah, let's move on to our next one. So let's talk a little bit about Albatross Q Block. So this is kind of a deck that's risen a lot as... it's one of those control decks that beats up on the aggro, right? So it beats some of the Odd Rogues and the Odd Paladins and the aggro dudes in the metagame. But normal Q Block sucks into Arena Priest, and so we've seen a little bit of adaptation back to running Bad Luck Albatross, running the birds, even though they are at 4 mana. And the main reason here is that you are able to, turn off Reno effects and potentially shuffle the decks post Polkelt. And you have kind of the best Death Rattle synergy out of the meta decks, right? To kind of abuse that with cubes and plague and all that kind of good stuff. I think there's still a little bit of experimentation to finding the best list. I know a lot of people are running like tour guides over the Mistress of Mixtures to kind of lean more into the Arena Priest matchup. I've also seen a lot of people running Fellbolts. And then there's kind of like
some Vectus action.
Yeah, a little bit of Vectus, a little bit of like Expired Merchant instead of the Umbras. So there's still like a ton of experimentation with like the last like 2 or 3 slots, I think, in this deck. But the rest of the deck is pretty core. I mean, Cubelock has been a deck for even longer than Witchwood, like almost 3 years now, right?
Yeah, KNC. Yeah, Kobolds. That's when it popped up.
Actually, almost 3 years ago now, right? Because we're getting on to our
Yep, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this is a deck that'll never go away, I don't think, just because the power level of the deck and the cards are insane.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think the big thing is we're kind of moving, like, while Willow was good, and still is good, we're kind of moving away from that version of the deck just because of how the metagame is currently shaped up, right? With aggressive decks and Priest. And I will go ahead and say that, like, Cubelock is pretty good into Quest Mage, right? If you can kind of do a lot of copying of Void Lords, it's not an auto win, but it's one of your better control decks against Quest Mage, right? I quote unquote control decks, but
yeah, absolutely. Among those those control decks, this is the one that can definitely like handle Quest Mage. And I don't think the matchup's ever been that far from 50-50. Like I think it was Quest Mage favored for a bit and might still be Quest Mage favored, but yeah, it's always been like a fine-ish matchup because they do struggle with like the Void Lords coming down. And ever since that, like the quest moved from 6 to 8, it gives you like a little bit more time to get that taunt down that can make things a little bit awkward. But yeah, Cubelock, God, 3-mana bird. I'm just kind of imagining it. But yeah, I've also seen some toying around with Broomstick in Cubelock. I don't know if you've tried that, but that might be another idea when, let's talk about different things people are testing.
Yeah, I tried it a lot when we were in Darkglare metagame as a way to like insta-pop your Void Callers to get those Void Lords out, but I haven't messed around with it. I don't. It felt a little bit unnecessary. Like it was good, but just like it felt a little bit redundant because you have stuff like Plague of Flames and Defile anyways, so it wasn't like 100% like insane. But it was still a very, very good card, and I think it gets a lot better if you're running stuff like Vectus in your deck, right? Being able to instantly pop off those 1/1s is pretty nutty. Like I still think like honestly think that if you're running like Vectus, Mistress of Mixtures actually is kind of meh. Right, because you want to hit those Void Callers, the Dreadlords, the Void Lords. But, I mean, I think there's still a lot of room for kind of experimentation, right? I think you have, like, 4 flex spots in this deck, right? With Double Mistress, the Umbra, and then, honestly, I think Ziliax may or may not be a flex spot, depending on what you're playing against. But you can kind of experiment with Broomsticks, Fellbolts, whatever you want to mess around with, and see what kind of fits your local meta the best.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point, though, about Defile and Dark Skies kind of already filling the role and sort of the recovery tool. Yeah. And so often Broom is probably better in classes that don't necessarily have access to that kind of stuff. So, I don't know, Paladin is an example that often doesn't have access to, like, really clean board clears where that's a bit more important. So, yeah.
You talk about this. I'm just thinking, like, Death Rattle Hunter with Broomsticks.
Oh.
With eggs.
Is that a new tier 2 hunter deck?
Oh, wait. Don't dust bait anybody yet. Okay.
Right, next episode, deck locked in.
But yeah, last but not least, let's talk about Darkglare Warlock. Wait, did I say that right? Darkglare Warlock? Is it back? What?
Wait, what month is this? Hang on. But yeah, Darkglare Warlock has been popping up here and there. The featured list that we have here is just like my list that I was playing pre-nerf. Right now, Darkglare Warlock is even more of a shit show in terms of like the builds that people are playing, where lots and lots of one-offs, lots and lots of variety, lots and lots of doesn't matter because you high roll and play Giants on 4. So yeah, doesn't really matter what people are really trying. But yeah, this is like the list. So Darkglare Warlock. Okay, so it got nerfed, right? But it still seems fine in terms of like being able to cheat out like 8/8s on turn 4. It's a little bit trickier in terms of playing other stuff. So previously, when Darkglare Warlock was doing its thing, it's very common for you to be able to Darkglare and then like Spellstone on the same turn because every time you play like a Flame Imp, you'd get an extra mana back. So eventually, you'd find your way back up to 4. Be able to Spellstone immediately, clear the opponent's minion, heal up, get out of range, all that good stuff. Now it's a little bit trickier because you don't have that same way to mana cheat. Like you can't have a really Darkglare and Spellstone on the same turn. But yeah, multiple 8/8s that early in the game, still very difficult for lots of lists to handle. Mage lists struggle with it. Warlock lists can struggle with it if you go super wide and get out of like plague range, and also kind of get out of defile, depending on the trades you make. But yeah, this deck I think is like, it's been popping up here and there. Multiple people have been playing it at high legend. Maxi hit rank 1 legend with it. I know Paradox has been playing a lot of it on like high legend on multiple servers, and you know, it might have even hit rank 1. I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, Darkglare Warlock's seeing a little bit of a comeback right now. I don't know. I think it's like, actually, it's one of my favorite decks to play right now. I know it's a little.
You can't tell, but I'm making a face right now.
A little dangerous to say. Like, I don't know if I can say that, but I find it really interesting now. It is still degenerate in a lot of ways, but in the same kind of way that I like Quest Mage, I think a lot of the play patterns are actually pretty sweet. And I think it is actually quite tricky to play now in terms of exactly how you sequence things, because you don't get to like spend all that mana kind of free rolling. So yeah, Darkglare Warlock's been popping up here and there. So,
I will say,
if it's
yeah, I will say, similar to like Quest Mage, when a lot of these degenerate decks, right, quote unquote degenerate decks, get nerfed, right, they still actually are these pretty cool, interesting, fun decks that are, you know, they're fun to play because they're not the tier 1 broken oppressive deck that they used to be, right? And so you don't get the rage ads, right? Maybe you do, but I don't know. I in my experience, Darkglare does get a lot worse. It's really good into Quest Mage and Lpg Mage and stuff like that, but it gets a lot worse into Priest because it's a lot less consistent to hit the Loatheb in the same turn as your big swing turn.
Yeah.
Right? And so, yeah, Priest are able to frequently answer the boards, which is a little bit annoying. But kind of in general, I think I hate seeing this deck back, but also I'm probably going to play a little bit of it because I did enjoy it when it was broken, and now that it's no longer broken, maybe I can get away with playing it without people hating me.
Yeah. But yeah, it is surprising that there are multiple people like on, and I've heard this from many different sources, where there was a player on Asia as well who said like, hey, I'm seeing a lot of Darkglare Warlock. What's up with that? And I'm like, yeah, we were talking about this like yesterday. Like there's been a lot more Darkglare Warlock on NA. So yeah, it making a little bit of a comeback, which is interesting. So
yeah, it's interesting. Okay, guys, but that's going to be it for us. That's our episode today. And just a reminder that we're going to be doing these episodes every Sunday with news and decks every week. And just a reminder that we're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all your podcast distribution sources. So if you'd like to listen on the go, make sure you guys check us out there. Corbett, thank you again for joining me. Let the people know where they can find you.
Guys, you can find me at CorbettGames on Twitter and Twitch. Back to streaming daily after my little hiatus. But yeah, it's CorbettGames. So thanks, guys, for tuning in. And yeah, hope you have a good one.
Yeah, appreciate you guys watching. We hope you all enjoyed. And stay safe out there. And we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
All right. Catch you guys. Bye.